the state of the church in South Africa, what's happening in the country. Part of the conversations I get to have quite a lot when I travel in different churches, big or small, around issues of transitioning from one level of leadership to the next level of leadership. I was preaching just a month ago, I think I was preaching at Hartfield. And obviously most of you know Hartfield in terms of its history, one of the bigger churches in South Africa. But the transition of that has happened demographically in the church. I mean, it's very obvious when you walk into Hartfield. Still sprawling, still big campus, big buildings, lots of places. If you don't know where you're going, you get lost. You know, if you drive into to Hartfield, you need to know, you follow the sign, because it's not just a church building, it's a campus. You know. So, and then you see about 70% black, so the transition has been massive in terms of demographics. And then part of the conversations I normally have with people is around nuances around cultural difference, leadership perspectives, approaches to leadership, and the very issue of leadership mix. How do they mix leadership from other ethnic groups, and how that forms, and all of that, and whether we use meritocracy, do we just use social engineering, tokens, or we have to have a black person, or do we have one parachuted from outside because it's like, here's a brilliant person, can you come and join our organization? Do we raise one from within? How does that work out? How long does it take? All kinds of things. I was in Devon just somewhere in May, and this church in Devon, this pastor actually living supper. He actually said to me, and I think I corrected him on this. He said to me, it feels like, he said in Devon, it feels like it's going to be unfashionable, or maybe already arrived, to be a white pastor in the current South Africa. So I don't think it has to be like that quiet, but that's the kind of pressure that he was feeling. And so I'm wondering, I was thinking to myself, is it necessarily an issue of it has to be a transitional racially? Is there no way for it to happen organically, naturally, without it having been sort of feeling imposed upon people, because it's like, it's an in thing, Of course, also you'll understand some of the stuff that has happened. There are churches that have a long transition in this area, but some of them then lose some demographic groups when leadership changes, which is the painful thing that I've had to see. So a leader comes up who's black, and then white people leave the church to go to another church that is more white, right? So when I sit with leaders in churches trying to consult in this area and trying to find out why is that the case, and then having to deal with the leadership differences or the approaches to leadership that we have, the different philosophies of leadership we come with, what impact those have, like time management, things that some people value so much to the degree that they may actually undervalue relationships and other aspects of life, which are equally important. How do we bring a balance between these things? And so there's therefore a need for conversation around where we are going as a church, what we are trying to build as a church. I'm not a proponent of, like when I went to Mighty Men's many years ago, first time I thought, why me? Not just why me as a person in the African culture, why me as a black person? Preaching to this big crowd of majority white people. So I was suffering from some level of existential crisis and having questions around, is it tokenism, is it real? Am I here out of merit, or am I just being brought in to mix up the preaching team? I had those struggles. Nobody said those things to me. I was just going through that myself on my own. Now imagine if you stand on the platform and you're already struggling like that. What does that do to your delivery of the message? Yeah. If you're already tainted by issues of your own, second guessing and questioning your whatever calling, right? And there's been instances where people made me feel differently about my calling. But I have a strong character, so that helps me, personality. So I just look at the person straight and I tell him, one guy from Orani came to me and told me about Orani. I just told him, I looked at him, I just said, you guys are you just are deceived, and I feel sorry for you. I don't need your validation to be who I am, but I feel sorry for you, pray for you. They obviously got you all confused. you're a prisoner of a cultural system that has lied to you about black people, and so we just need to have. So that, but that was a conversation. But he came to me. First time I preached, my man finished, and then the guy comes to me and says, I don't know why I come to you. I feel Holy Spirit wants me to talk to you. He doesn't know. He just comes to me. I don't know why I'm coming to talk to you. So I'm like, okay, where do you come from? Orania. I said, I do know. So we got to engage a little bit. And then I was preaching in Petrosville, 20 km away from Orania. He came to the meeting where I was. So the point I'm making to you is that after I've done Mighty Men's for 2013, I think almost seven times or 7 years. And the stories I've got in the beginning when we started this, or started coming to this regularly, I've had people, and I suppose part of the struggle I've had is to learn to see things for what they are, not for what they appear to be. So I've had to accept that. I've had to accept that there's racism in the church. That a Christian doesn't stop being racist, they just become a racist Christian. So Christianity doesn't take away racism. It has a potential to, but the potential must be actualized. So it's not automatic. There's no self-correct button. It's not automatic. But also, equally so, I've also had to accept that in my groups and in my circles, there are people, and I've had many of them, who also had maybe they will say, I'm not racist, but they had antipathy, they had hatred of white people. So I've also had to confront them. That they said, I don't want to go to those meetings of those people. I'm like, okay, those people are supposed to be your brothers. So that's a sign of antipathy. So I've had to face that. I've had to face that because now I'm in the middle. I'm straddling lanes. I'm in the middle. I'm like, here's the group that thinks I belong to. They think I belong to them. And now I don't seem to represent them so well. Now I'm like, what kind of a person are you? Are you on our side or on the other side? I'm like, can I not be on anybody's side and be on Jesus' side? But how does that look like practically? It's good to say it theoretically and philosophically, but how does it look practically to be on Jesus' side? And so, and you I've been in conferences, I was in one conference in 4 days. The conference was about racism. I didn't make it. The truth teachers come together, and most of the white, and they did a conference, which is amazing, it's commendable. The theme is racism, and they called me to be a speaker. And great, so we're about to address this monster, and it's initiated by the churches, so they want to transform. It's beautiful. Except we're having lunch, and one more, and then one of the people who are in there is selling an iced coffee. First time we see them call it iced coffee. It's like it's a new part. It's a new thing. So they're talking about how to get traction in about this product, and so the young man who leads worship in this conference on racism has a brilliant. He's got a brilliant spark. He has an idea about how to get this thing to work. Lights on. He says, I know what you should do to get these people, to get this product sold by black people or bought by black people. Just put a picture of a sangoma on the container. We're having lunch. I froze. Everybody froze. It's like I don't know what to say. This is the worship leader in a conference on racism. The young man, of course, and he just said, put a picture of a sangoma outside, and black people would buy this iced coffee product. I got lost. And I've been around cycles like that, of leaders who are just so ignorant, it's like shocking. And I'm like, what's the hope for the people they are leading? If the leader themselves is that hopelessly ignorant of what things to say and what is appropriate, and how not homogenize people and assume people are just groups and they think the same. I've not consulted someone for over 30 years, so I don't even know what you're talking about. It's part of my history, it's not part of my present. I write against this stuff. Yeah. So how does some woman to do with me? Well, many people I lead and I interact with who are not having that kind of lifestyle, right? And so now we can go on and on about this and feel sorry for ourselves and think we are making a mistake, we're not getting any traction. But I always think what Jesus is saying. My sense is that Jesus is looking at all of us with compassion in his eyes, Looking at all of us and not looking at our weaknesses and the fact that we have not done so well. No. Looking at our unwillingness to accept redemption. Not the weakness. I have no problem with it. I have no problem with somebody coming to my meeting and says, like the one man came and said, forgive me, I'm racist. I have no problem with the person who owns up. I have a problem with the person who would not change, who refuses the offer of salvation. Because that's what takes people to hell, as you know. It's not anything, it's a refusal to offer redemption, to accept redemption from God. Hell is for that reason. It's not because of your sins, really. It's a refusal to accept salvation. It's not a sin that takes you to hell. It's a refusal to repent. So you shouldn't go to hell. Nobody should. Because there's a salvation thing that is being released. Right? So we are in that space, and therefore, I actually don't have the right, and I realize that quite soon enough, to project or to think of people in that only way and forget to think of myself. So I play in the space of cross-cultural ministry because that's where God wants me to be. I'm safer there because then I don't have established and entrenched ideas about the others which I'm not relating to. So I'm safer here in this space because it helps me to best represent Jesus to the best of my ability. Because if I had a church where it's black people, and I go to fraternize where it's black people, I go to conferences where it's black people, something in me is going to be affected. Whether I like it or not. It's just something about echo chambers. Right? So I don't do it because it's not going to help me for what God wants to do through me. So, Peter and Paul, one of the things I see about in the Bible is that Peter's ministry only went as far as prejudice allows him. So Peter's ministry was curtailed and cut short because of the level of prejudice in his life. So prejudice can short-circuit your impact on earth. And it goes always, every side. And I know guys are very gifted in my community, very gifted, but I know they'll never make national impact because they just have a certain antipathy towards white people. They'll make an impact, but it'll always be limited to certain groups because they've established strong anchors in a certain ideological framework, which may make sense socially, but makes no sense to God. Right? So how do we take the social conversation and baptize it into Christian ethos and make sure it comes across with the blood and without making it sound revolutionary, politically correct, and theologically incorrect? Because political correctness and theological incorrectness, it's not going to work. We are accountable for our obedience to God's word, not political correctness. Right? And the two things sometimes don't work together very well. So let's go to the East time. Some of you are very curious about that before my time is up. So we went to Bloom. We were in Bloom from Friday until Sunday. We're trying to change the country. So everybody's trying to change the country. We're tired now. I think on this one we all agree. This one I don't think we disagree on this. I think this one we are in the same place that this nation has to change. We gotta vote those guys. We're gonna fire these 400 guys in Parliament, fire the 90 people at NCOP, and just to get rid of them. So we agree on that. Maybe we disagree on the strategy, but at least we agree on the fact that it's enough now. 1.5 trillion for the last 30 years, stolen and all that. We just have to agree on that one. That things has to change. So we came, and some of you know, Arno and John Matucci are the leaders of It's Time to Arise. So they gathered at the same farm that the It's Time prayer was held. We ran the same farm. So not as many people, of course. In fact, far less. Even less than what they expected, which is what happens with these kind of things anyway. So still a lot of people, but not as much as they expected. So we came, and meeting starts on Friday. A lot of speakers, I think, to my view, lots more people speaking than I would have allowed. So just a lot of input, but very, very seasoned people like Chris Matebula, Pal Coupe was there, Yonelo was there. Some key voices spoke around the same theme: change, practical stuff, reconciliation, social issues, what do we do, let's go on, let's move, and the same theme. everybody just agreeing with the fact that it's time for us to practically participate. And now its time was set up, its time to rise was set up to deal with just the social issues and everything, but now this one is mostly about governance, this meeting. So it's not just all of it governance, it's education, agriculture, it's business, it's different sectors, there's different groups, focused interest groups that exist on Telegram and different platforms, focus on different things. And they're wonderful. I mean, like people are coming with innovative ideas around finance, digital finance and cashless society, and new models of finance. Guys have basically been left out of the country system because of their being in the outskirts of the country, their race being inappropriate, whatever. But now that they've got a platform, they come up and you hear about strategies in agriculture, food security. Guys have been dreaming of stuff. We've got ideas that I think will have an impact. New levels of education, new ways of approaching education, new ways of addressing security, crime, stock theft. Guys have been dreaming, and now they're like, yeah, and now finally we can come and contribute in the new government that we are guys proposing. So it's wonderful conversations that are existing on different platforms. But this one, but the agreement was this, in a sense, was that without governance changing, everything we're talking about is not going to work. So that was basically the issue. That look, we can talk about everything else, how to do policing better, how to do this. If governance remains what it is, this is going to be a waste of effort. So we do have to affect governance. So the guys were there, Michael Lou were there, some of you know Michael Lou. Michael Lou is the guy who leading the case, Concord case, for the independence bill, so that independents can be allowed to vote. Remember we won the court case 2 years ago, constitutional court case, but the government made what it seems to be cosmetic changes, very limited changes, not substantive changes. They still made it difficult for independents to stand in political office, to a point where an independent has to have so many signatures to stand, but the political parties have violence, so they put roadblocks. So that's why they went back to court to ask the court for a declarative order, because they say government has not made the changes the court had envisaged. So they're waiting for the judgment now on that court case. So basically the Electoral Act is unconstitutional because it prohibits independence from standing. So that act was changed. But nobody in Parliament actually likes the idea of independence. So nobody, they don't like it because it changes their status quo, which is to remain loyal to political parties. Nobody wants it. So it's against what they want. So remember South Africa, some people don't quite understand, we came to a transition with the elections 30 years ago when we began. It was like people don't know their political leaders because they've been in exile, so they vote for a party. So there was a party system, but that was supposed to be temporary. It was supposed then to allow constituency-based system in tandem with PR, but they now didn't want to change it. So Frederick van Slevert came with a commission and came with a report that we need a dual system, constituency-based and a PR system. The report, they shelved it. Montante also came up with a similar report. People are getting like complacent about voting because they see now accountability. So now people are not voting. Let's have another system to sort of reinvigorate interest in elections. They take the report from Montante, they shelved it. Nobody wanted it. Not DA, not ACTP, not EFF, not ANC, nobody. Because it changed the status. So only Musiwa Lekota agreed to have a private members bill, which is sponsored, which led to the Concord case. Otherwise, nobody else was keen.
What?
Yeah. Only Musiwa, I suppose he had nothing to lose. Cope and remained and whittled down to one person. And it's getting old, I'm like, I've got nothing else to lose. Let me go out in glory. So Musiwa is the one that helped with Michael and others. Now I really now may ask yourself, how do we solve this? It's big, I think Graham was saying, changing governance is a big project. But when I look at people like Michael, for instance, from Cape Town, he's a founding member of ACTP. The court case cost hundreds of thousands. Okay? To actually take your own government to court and win. When they won the case, I'm like, what? Boldness, the courage, the tenacity. You know, to bring in these advocates and these senior counsels and raise the money and run this thing and hope to succeed. And now they're going back and taking the government to court again. I'm like, and when you see them and you see them in Parliament, the First Nation also is also one of the interest groups because they also want independence movement. We are the king of Khoisan with So there's stuff that people on the ground are looking for. They're looking for accountability. They're looking for leaders that can hold accountable. Not accountable to a party, but accountable to constituencies who voted for it. People are tired of this. 19 million people didn't vote in previous elections because of the voter apathy that is happening in South Africa. People cut their nose to spite the face. And so that's the problem we're having. And so you have to invigorate the system by getting accountability back again. So Musi, for example, Musi was part of the independence movement, but in view of the fact that by the next year's elections, the movement may not be existing as it was thought about, so Musi then formed BOSA, because he sees that they may not actually get to that place on time because of the delays that are happening in court and the government stalling the process. So he didn't want to form a political party because they were going to stand as independents, right? But the independence is complicated. The party, you vote for the party, they capture all the votes for the party and they distribute them based on votes. Like EFF has 1.3 million votes, 26 seats, right? So DA got 3.2 million votes. So ANC got 10 million votes. So they distribute accordingly. Now if you're independent, you need 50,000 votes to go to parliament. But if you get 200,000 votes, 150 is wasted when you're independent. For the party, you still use them and distribute them. For independent, it's a wasted vote.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what they're trying to fight. It's unfair. It's unfair. I need to capture my votes and give them to whoever I think second, I feel. That's what they're asking for. A simple thing like that. Because most may easily get 200,000 votes, as you might suspect. But he doesn't need 200,000 votes.
Yeah.
If he gets 200,000 votes, all 150,000 votes are wasted. They're not a waste for ANC, not a waste for DA. DA brings 3 more people into parliament with those votes. Right? And those numbers count. Those numbers count. When ACTP got an extra seat, which is something some of us didn't expect, which is great, they got 4. That extra seat counts. Just that one seat extra counts a lot in parliament. When I talk to Steve Swart and the impact they have as a small ministerial number, when the DA in fighting with the ANC and the EFF, because they always look at us, they will often ask Steve, because he's neutral, Christian, he's not going to be telling people you are a thief and all of that. Then they say, please be a neutral entity, and they're able to bring these warring heads into the table. Yeah. So they're playing strategic position there in parliament, being a small number as it is. But of course, we need bigger numbers now. Yeah. We don't want to just continue with we are still punching above our weight. And those guys make that noise in parliament, they drown everybody else. So the independence bill is coming out, well, at least a changed version. So that's why the court case existed. They were fighting that. And I continue to fight that. Parties don't want to change. Because again, it works in their favor. So an amazing thing that happened in this time is when Mhlope came, former Chief Justice. I think there was, I suspect there was an expectation that Mhlope will ride into this movement or some other, align himself with something. And he came to clarify exactly that. So stood there and he just clarified, I am not going to presidential election in 2024. So rumors of such a nature, I've here to clarify, are incorrect. I'm not part of this or that or that. 2024, I'm not featuring in any elections. I'm at home, I'm retired, I'm never retired. So obviously to the shock of, I think, a lot of people. So, however, he did say, this is a key part, I think some of you may have seen an ETV interview. I don't know if you've seen it. You must Google it. It was interviewed by ETV because they came into its time. ETV was there, yeah. To interview. After he spoke, they took him to interview him. My wife says he watched the interview. I didn't watch it. In the interview, Mhlope says, I'll be the next president. You saw it? Now, in Mhlope's style of things, like God will, true to Mhlope's way of doing things, right? Not like this or that way. God will put me there, and nothing is going to stop it. So he just said it. My wife was saying, she said she watched it, she felt that he felt that he was being provocative. She felt that the way he so spoke about God to ET, he was like saying, it's like, stuff it, just get used to it, get the idea. My wife felt like he was like wrapping it in, like, this is the story here, and there's nothing you can do about it. So, he is not ruled out, Well, in fact, for strange reasons, it's not even talking about contesting. In any English, it just feels going to happen. I don't know. He says, everybody advises him how these things normally happen. Yeah. He says, yes, I hear you. It's fine. It's okay. You know, do your stuff. I do my stuff. It's going to happen. Right? So there were some bishops that actually said Mhlope is standing on their platform. He clarified that. They were not saying the right things in his name, so he clarified that. So a lot of things that he clarified. He says, obviously, a lot of people request him and they ask him, are you standing? Are you standing? He says, I've come to tell you I am not standing. For me, it was a good clarification, but also I think a lot of people are like, oh. Because part of what we have done, I think is a mistake, is to make this about personalities, about people rather than the project itself. So when we're talking about the who, instead of the what, we get to be in trouble. Because then we get into idolatry of personalities. So when Mhlope made the statement, I'm like, okay, now that that's out of the way, are we now ready as ordinary, not the Mhlope, as ordinary South Africans to put our hand up? Maybe we don't have such a stature as Mhlope, and maybe people forget here in South Africa sometimes, and I need to close. We forget that the guys who are in parliament did not start out with the clout they have today. The difference between the Malemas and the rest of us is simply courage. They didn't have the reputation they had. They had to build it because they have more courage and we have fear. It's not that they are intellectually better than us in terms of thinking ideologically. They just are courageous. When he invited Malema, he immediately set up a project to start EFF. That's courage. He had no sort of any sense of how it's going to work out. There was no concrete or clear understanding this thing is going to be so big. But he had enough courage to say, I'm bouncing back. I'm not sitting down. He fought. So it's not like ordinary people need to have the Mhlope status to do something. They just need to have courage. And how can the church, to be placed where fear is not supposed to be present, have more fear? Right? So Mhlope clarified that, but he went on the TV, says it's coming. So what I'm expecting to happen is that after this, there will be still, I don't know what form it will take, there will be more Christians who are galvanized to contest. I have a sense that it's good for people who have a Christian ethos, the Musis, Maimanes, and even Mashabas, who's a born-again Christian, by the way. You go ATM, so his party may not be actually SA, but he, in the personal level, is a child of God. I was just told that this last week. So, I'm happy with everyone, alternative people, whatever their names are, to go to parliament and somehow form a coalition when they're there. That is against the narrative of anti-this. I'm happy. I'm not looking for a movement that I'm part of to be the one that governs. I'm just looking for a group of people to win seats in parliament and then sit there and caucus and change the laws and policies. So it might be 6 or 7 different entities that get to be there. Like there's Nikki Tubia of United Independence Movement, who's like also so bold in Cape Town. Some of you may not know the people I've met him. Also believes he's the next president. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. I'm saying, just win some seats and go, and let's see how far this thing goes. You know, everybody believes they got a solution to save South Africa. You know, so I don't know. Yeah, so it's a bit too much for me to think of myself that I don't think, you know, it must be that presumption. You have a contribution definitely to make, but to save, that's a bit like you are the guy to change things for all of us. Like that's. Yeah, we need to have boldness and courage, but I don't think that boldness. I think that could be a little presumptuous. So, but we are seeing the ordinary people, as I'm saying to you, who are standing and who are rising, and it's time for us now as believers to see that kind of fruition. As I said, Chris Matelos, Chris is a very influential person. Some of you may not know who I'm referring to, but he's a very influential person in this country. Over 25. I mean, he's featured in the GLS today, in this year. First time I think I've heard a South African feature in the GLS. Chris is featuring. And Chris has been standing not for political office, but as a voice of saying enough. Now you do need black senior people to speak in the same way, so it doesn't seem to be white people hating on the ANC government. You do need senior black people saying, enough is enough. We're tired of you thieves. We just had enough of you. Now when Chris of this world says it, what did they say? You know, so he's standing on this platform of it's time to arise, and Pearl and others, Palkupe and others, because I think we're brought together by the idea that it's time for Christians, after praying, because we have done the prayer, to now practically participate in the change that we need in this country. We can't just be sitting. So that's synopsis of what happens. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of the actual details. You will hear of it, but because Arno and John will be going around. But I do suspect that they will let people whom they call representatives, which people are going to vote for. I saw my name floating somewhere there, which I'm not standing for. But one also knows when people like Mhlope can clarify, I'm not standing for any political office. God ain't saying that to me. I'm a preacher of the gospel. And so he hasn't whispered to me that we are the next president. He's still searching there's youth there, go around the rural communities. He's not put me into tennis yet. So my ambitions must be managed right there. So, but to see believers of a certain persuasion like myself, there is a desire I have. So there will be practical, therefore, outrolling of it. There's already time chapters throughout the country, I think over 200, that are already set. Different groups that are existing around the country. And those will be, I think, will be key to activate communities and get people to vote. So they don't want us to call it a political movement, but I think they will have no choice but to morph it into some political whatever. Because unlike Mhlope, I don't think they have this thing that God will do it supernaturally. I think they understand they have to play into the game. I think maybe their faith is not as the same level as Mhlope. So they are going to contest in one way or the other. I don't know in what name. There's a possibility, a slight possibility, that if a Concord finds in favor of the case of Mike and Lunella, the elections might be postponed. So something has to give, because if the changes can't happen before the elections, then the elections can't take place. This is very amazing, because government was given 2 years, remember, to make the changes, and they did make, according to those fighting, the right type of changes, and they'll go to the court. So if the court says, you haven't done what we told you, go and do it. You know how slow government things work, with public participation, with bills. So there must be the slight possibility that elections might be postponed. Okay, I'm done. I see a hand. I don't know if there's time for that. Yes.
Can I just ask a quick question? Most of us represent the community right here, and we sit with the conundrum, what should we do on air running up to the election? Should we allow all the parties to come and talk this stuff? Or should we, as a Christian group of community radio stations, what should we do to inform the public of what's happening?
Well, if I had political parties in mind, for me, I would give all of them equal platform, or give none. I wouldn't give I wouldn't give any party. I give none. So I'll give them, once they guys come, you either have a discussion together, share your policy, and then we listen, or you have 5 minutes each on this date or whatever. So you guys come on Tuesday 5 minutes, Wednesday 5 minutes, or I give nobody. So I would play it at that level. Although I know who I'm supporting privately, but I won't play that one.
But do you think the public want us to do that?
The public may not want you to do it, but your license requires you.
No, you can abstain when you say, I do not.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. You may then run with it.
What I'm saying is, do you think our audiences want us to give them the information?
To give what information from everyone?
About everyone.
Well, we have to educate the audience. I think that's where the radio is. We have to tell the people we have an obligation as a broadcaster to give. So that's why the role of the radio exists, is to educate as well. That we're not a church, so we can't run it as our pastor so and so. It's not a church, it's a platform. So therefore, either we go that way or don't go that way. If we go that way, we have to go that way in a way that is neutral. We're not for ANC or DA or AFF, but we also cannot be so anti, so obvious. Because some of our listeners who are in our church are members of ANC. What do we do about that? 8 members of DA.
Afrika, your shuttle's waiting for you.